Welcome back to the latest episode of the Key and Mang audio experience. I'm your host, Mang, as always, and with my fellow co-host, Key. Key, what's good?
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm good. Can't complain. How you doing?
Pretty good. Living lavish in the rain.
Hey. Look, SoCal, I don't see the rain too much, so you can pull up.
I know I have to soon.
But on today's episode, we have a physical therapist, fitness coach who helps busy business and healthcare professionals take their health back through exercise, nutrition, and rehab. Michael Laviolette, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you, man?
Ah, good. Can't complain. Can't complain. So recently, we added a new addition to our show, where it's a this or that question, and we have to pick a. We have two options, and you pick one, and you explain why you're picking it. So we're starting. You're our first guest we're doing this with, so I'm gonna throw it to you first. Flying on a private jet or sail on a yacht?
Ooh, so tough. Um, what does Grant Cardone do? I'm kidding about that. But you know what? I'm gonna say yacht. And the reason I'm gonna say yacht is because I feel like we know. All right, so this is a bad reason. I was gonna say in the air, we know what's up there, right? But if we go far enough, we have no clue. There could be a whole nother there are other universes that we don't even know what's there. There could be life forms that are more developed than us, like so far ahead of us. But I've always had a fascination with the ocean and like what's down there, what's deep. I've always loved the ocean, love the beach, but I've always loved the ocean. I always want to know what's down there. There are other life forms that in the ocean that we don't know about. Like how deep does it go? I don't know if we know the answer to that, but I'm gonna pick yacht. It's dangerous there. I like that.
Go
I
ahead,
like a
Keith.
little element of danger.
I must say a yacht, just because I feel like flying on a private jet, it seems cool and everything. Like I'm assuming I've never been on a private jet, but I'm assuming like you have basically a bed on there, a couch, you get unlimited food, unlimited drinks, you can watch whatever you like, right? But I don't really care to be in the air that long. I feel like the yacht would be more peaceful. I could do everything I want on the yacht that I would do on the private jet. And then I have a great scenery as opposed to looking at clouds. So that's my
That's
reason. That's my reason. So and I really like boats. I love cruises, so I'll definitely get on the yacht and sail forever before I step on a private jet. So
that's interesting. I knew you were gonna say jet. I mean yacht. I knew you were gonna say yacht. I'm rolling with jet because last time we did this, our last question was like gravity, like experience zero gravity or the deep trenches of the ocean. And I don't really, I have a fear of sharks, so I don't really mess with the water like that. And if something were to happen to the yacht and we're stranded, then I'm in trouble. So I'll roll with being in the air and being a little more comfortable in the air.
okay. Okay. I'll take it. Go ahead.
I just want to say, and I don't know if this makes a difference, man, but there are no laws at sea. You can do whatever you want. I don't know if that makes a difference, but pirates do
It's a good, it's
whatever
a,
they want.
it's a good
Just throwing
point.
that out there.
It's a good point. I'm still keeping my answer though.
I'm taking the yacht out. But you can live on a yacht. You got to come down from the air. You have to come down at some
Yeah,
point.
but it also takes me to wherever I'm trying to get to faster than if I were on a yacht.
That's true. I'm thinking the yacht for the experience. You're not gonna buzz in your answer though, so it doesn't even matter.
But no, Mike, thanks for joining us today and taking the time to have a combo with us. So we just wanted to start it off with how'd you get involved in physical therapy and what attracted you to the field?
So I'm gonna get really, really deep in my answer, just like I did on the air and sea thing. I went deep there, but how did I get into physical therapy? Um, so I guess my first career was as a musician. I was a pianist, played keys, and I realized like 11 years in that I probably was not going to have the life that I wanted, and probably not going to have. Um, I was probably going to live in a 10 by 10 room teaching piano and live in an apartment with, three different guys for my whole life. Right. And so I didn't want to do that. And, I was pretty out of shape then. And I was busy. So it's kind of like part of what I do. Right. So I was busy all the time. I would teach piano. After that, I would, play gigs if there were any to play. Right. So it was kind of busy, and my life was kind of unconventional. Um, so I decided that I needed to change. And during that time, I was out of shape. I started, one of my old friends from high school called me and said, "Hey man, you gotta get in the gym with me. I've been doing this for a long time and I would love for you to come." So I did. And I got addicted to it. And at that time I'd been with some females, and they just didn't make me feel good about myself, which is sad, because you should feel good about your body no matter what, right? Like, you always want to strive for better as far as health. And maybe you want to, look a different way, and that's okay, but you should still love your body and love yourself for who you are. But I didn't. And I had this fascination with, and it was probably a little bit unhealthy. And I had this fascination with the gym. Um, and I fell in love with anatomy and physiology, and I wanted to help people. I've always wanted to help people. And I was like, how can I do that? I had this love for nutrition. I was going to be an RD, but I realized as an RD, I probably wasn't going to be working with athletes all the time. And I gravitated towards physical therapy because of the movement and working out aspect. And, it was something that I'd done in the past. I had multiple injuries. I had a shoulder injury, which they said was a rotator cuff injury. I mean, 20 years later, doesn't bother me at all. So just something, if you got a rotator cuff injury, just know you can get it. I had a comp fracture when I was young. And so physical therapy really helped me through that. And I thought it was a great profession. As far as the financial aspect goes, I didn't realize that being $200,000 in debt was going to put me where it has. But I'm still living. I live a life that is where I'm helping people, and I don't have 3 male roommates. So that's how I got into physical therapy, into this field, I guess, specifically. So I guess it wasn't that deep, but it was probably a lot more words than possibly maybe you expected.
You said a little earlier that you were hanging out with your buddy and he introduced you to the gym, and then you got addicted to the gym and the lifestyle. Um, what about it got you addicted to being in the gym and like working out? Because I feel like people who usually you hear about people who are new to the gym, like it takes a while for them to get used to the habit, the routine, and it takes a while for the results to come in. So sometimes people aren't as enthusiastic about going to the gym. But what about it got you addicted relatively early on in the process?
I have an addictive person. There's a couple reasons, I think. Now I'm not a psychoanalyst. I don't, I can't dig that deep into the mind, but I know that I have an addictive personality. So if there's something I'm doing, it's always been something in my life. First, it was baseball. I had friends that were on another team, uh, and they were good. They were on the team where people were good, and I was on the team that maybe people were less good. And I wanted to be on that team where people were good, and I was just determined to be better than them. So it's like baseball was the thing that I was focused on. Next, it was basketball. It was a similar situation. And I was like, I want to be better at basketball. I want to be the best at basketball. And then it was piano. I want to be the best at piano. And so it's always been that drive and that addiction to that one thing that I'm hyper focused on. And I'm very competitive. So, I got in the gym First, I was competing with my friends. Then I was competing with the biggest guys in the gym. I didn't realize that they had help, uh, you know, performance. You know, they were using supplements that could bring them past what I'd be able to do without those supplements because I'm not a supplement guy. Yeah, I think there are a few that are. I think there are a few that you could use without putting your health at risk. And maybe we'll talk about those later. But I think there's always been a drive to be better than other people. So there's that competitiveness, and then there's that focus on that one thing. So I think those two things got me to like, hey, this is the thing. And I think later on I realized that you really can only compete with yourself. You can take a look at where you've been, and I think that's a healthy way to be competitive. Is you can look at yourself, see what you did maybe last year, take a look at where you are this year, and see if you can be better. So those are really two things that gave me that drive and that focus. Whereas I totally understand it may not be like that for some people. So yeah, I think that's what really set it into that drive for me.
When you went to the gym that first day with your friend, what type of exercise did you do? And I'm only curious about this because I feel like depending on your introduction to the gym and what you do, you can really like it or you can really hate it. For example, like if you go to the gym and do like a lot of brutal cardio, you're probably not gonna want to do that again. But I can see how you go to the gym and you lift weights and you get a pump and you feel good. You might want to do that. So what did you do on that first day?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what I did. And I know that I didn't even feel the pump. Like I've always had, motor skills. I've always been one who just could feel things, right? Like you have to do that hand-eye coordination and gross motor skills and even fine motor skills, which you don't really use, when you're lifting weights in a bodybuilding style. So I don't remember exactly what I did, but I know it wasn't like what you might consider functional fitness. It definitely wasn't cardio. So it was lifting that you consider like in a bodybuilding style. But I just consider it, this is the way that people like people that don't have a specific goal should be working out. Like if we look at physical activity guidelines, right? Like this is the thing that people should be doing at least twice a week. And then it should be difficult. So it's that kind of working out. And I know my friend, pushed me. I know that, but I didn't even realize what a pump was until I was like a year in. It's like, hey, you don't feel that? And I was like, well, maybe I'm just like moving the weight, and yes, I feel it. Now I'm addicted to the pump. There is some research behind some metabolic waste being built up in there, and sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, even though it doesn't, the sarcoplasmic hypertrophy doesn't make us stronger. But yeah, I don't remember what we did on the first day, but I do know it was, I guess, a bodybuilding style workout for sure. Absolutely.
So after that, you were in PT school. Well, you applied to PT school and then you got in. And then how did you maintain that kind of addiction during school?
Again, so once, it's the competitiveness. And I kind of went from like this bodybuilding style into, at that time I was like power building. I was doing some programming for other people at that time. This was like a few years in, like when I got accepted to PT school. I'd already been doing this for a while. So I studied strength and conditioning, NSCA journal, and so I was doing some programming and probably running some programs that were pushing what I would do for what I should do for myself. But it was just a strive to be stronger. I was chasing numbers, which I don't suggest now. You should fall in love with the process, but I was falling in love with PRs. So I was always chasing a PR, right? And I think that was that drive to be better, to compete with myself. And it was still, I was at this point where, there are people stronger than me at the gym. And I gained some size. At that point, I gained some size. I was, 30-ish, 32 maybe. And yeah, this drive to hit PRs, to be the strongest one in the gym, to be the biggest one in the gym, and still probably an unhealthy look at things. But I think that was that drive. It probably pushed me into some injuries. But it was that I was in love with it. I wanted to be better than everyone else. And I wanted to break the last PR. So those were some things that really kept me going. And again, I know it's probably a tough habit to keep for everybody, especially if that's not their personality or the way that if they don't have that built in to themselves. Yeah, I think that can be difficult for sure. But that's what really kept me going. And I wanted to be the biggest one in my PT class. And I'm not even sure I was that, but definitely the strongest one in the PT class.
There we go. There we go. You love to hear it. So then is part of the like that process of being the best, and this is an assumption, but I want to hear your thoughts on this. The wanting to be the best in PT school, teaching you how to be like a generalist, did that drive some of the decision to go get your residency?
It did. Yeah, I was really, from the start, that's of course, I wanted to help people. And that's really, I taught piano for years. And I even got into that because I was like, how could I help people? And I just want to help people. So I just want to help people had this, I had fallen in love with kind of lifting heavier things in athletics. And so orthopedics was something, and getting really deep into the anatomy and physiology of things was something that really I was interested in. And I felt like that was what got me into, and from the beginning, I knew that I wanted to do orthopedics. I wanted to be in orthopedics, and and I was really strong on, or really passionate about being up to date with literature. And I think at the time, I didn't really understand. You need to apply that to the individual. You need to take uh, what the evidence is and apply it to what you're seeing in front of you. So I didn't understand that at the time, but I was really into the orthopedic literature, and I could cite a lot of stuff. And that's what drove me to get my residency. Again, that drive to be better. I think that's what got me into it. And I think I knew from the time I found out that was a thing. I wanted to go and get my residency, and just to kind of drive into postgraduate education, because I knew there was more. I knew there was more that I could learn, um, and more that I could do to be better for myself, to be better than other people, and to help patients at a higher level, to be able to do that better. So I think that's what really drove me into getting my residency. I wanted to do my residency and attain the OCS. So that was really, I think, what pushed me in.
After
So
getting
recurring theme here, right?
Yes. So after getting after getting your OCS and completing residency, what was it like as a physical therapist at that point? Like treating
Well,
patients?
yeah. So at that time, I went out to California. It was a year-long residency to Kaiser Permanente, Northern California. I was in San Jose, and I was still training, but I was training less. I only had so much time, but I was still getting in there and getting it done. Nutrition wasn't as good as it could be, and I think that can be a slippery slope. I didn't have anyone keeping me accountable. I was still doing my own programming, and I kind of fell into this place where I wasn't before. It was a lot healthier and a lot fitter. And when I came back, just like at the end of my residency, I had this calf tear. It was pretty bad. And so I was, yeah, finally they put me in boots, which yeah, I have thoughts on and thoughts about, but I was in a boot for a little while, and I think that had an effect on my credibility as a physical therapist. Um, and I was kind of I was in an environment in a culture where I don't think evidence was valued as much. Now, of course, like you need to use that and apply it to the individual, but I don't think um, they it was an evidence-based practice. But being where I was, in the kind of health, the level of health that I was at, and the level of fitness that I was at, I don't think it gave me that credibility and that buy-in that I could have had if I wasn't in the boot for like as long as I was. So I think that definitely had an effect on outcomes. I think that had an effect on outcomes, and I think that had an effect on my confidence, and I think that really came through. So that's kind of like how things were when I came back. Like I was confident in my knowledge of the current body of evidence, but I don't think I was comfortable with myself and confident with myself. So that's kind of like what practice was like. I think that had a huge effect on me mentally. So yeah, that's what it was like. So it should have been like I got out of the residency and I was like, I'm very educated and like still, I was new to physical therapy. So it's like, oh, I know, I have all this literature that I know and that I have that I could cite, but that doesn't mean you're a good physical therapist. Like, right, you need to apply that to the individual because N equals one. Um, and I think in physical therapy, uh, there's only you can only be so specific, right? And everybody's going to be different within a study pool. There are so many different factors and variables within that study pool in the different individuals. Um, so yeah, it's really difficult to use that and be like, I'm armed with this knowledge, and I'm just going to go out into the world and save everybody. And I think that was kind of the mindset that I had at the time.
Can you dive deeper into why you think the boot impacted your credibility?
Yeah, I think people are like, you've been in this boot forever. Like, I've got a 12-week plan of care. Like, I'm obviously progressing, like because it was something where there was PT, physical therapy assistants, right? And there were other physical therapists would see those people, and they were like, I guess I don't want to say regulars, but they had been to this physical therapy office before, and they're like, yeah, I'm getting better, and you're not. What's happening here? Like, what's going on? And really, that boot affected my ability to be able to like train well. And my inability to train well, it was just like, all right, like there's a really good pizza place on the way home. There's some really good wine. And I don't know if you're familiar. I mean, you're from Connecticut, Key. I was living in West Hartford. And so it was a physical therapist place like 20 or 30 minutes from there. And on the way home, there was this really amazing pizza. And it wasn't a pizza. It was like New York style pizza, still really good. And the wine place was right next to it. And I was really getting into wine because I lived in Northern California, and Sonoma, Napa were like an hour and a half from me. So I was really into wine, and it was on the way home. And it's just a perfect setup to take that up on the way home. And like, what, they have to cook tonight. I'll just grab this stuff. I know I'm gonna have notes after, so we can enjoy this together. And I'll do notes until I go to bed. So it had a huge effect just on a lot of things in my life. And so, kind of going back to answer your question, just like a little less deep into my answer, like, people are getting better. They're seeing other PTs and they're thinking like, oh, like, this PT changed my plan of care a little bit and changed like some of the exercise that I'm doing, maybe progress them to the next, to the next progression of what they were doing. Like, oh, this changed and he's not getting better, but I'm getting better. What's happening here? So I think that's part of what had an effect on my credibility as a physical therapist. And they could see that I was like, oh, we need to move, we need to eat for recovery, we need to sleep for recovery. I think it was pretty apparent to them that I was under a lot of stress. I probably wasn't sleeping well, and I probably wasn't because I was doing notes forever, and I wasn't eating well for sure. So just those things, I think had credibility on and affected the buy-in from the patient.
Yeah, I agree. I can see that. I just like to hear people's perspective on that because I think people do not they don't I guess they don't see the emphasis or like how important it is to like practice what you preach, and also how the way like something going on in your life or injury you may have or how you may look can impact how your client or patient perceives you. I think it's a real thing that people don't want to acknowledge, at least some other physical therapists. So I thought it was interesting, but I agree. And
Yeah, and go ahead.
no, you can say what you were gonna say.
Yeah, and I just think it's like finger pointing. And if you follow me, I try to do as little finger pointing as I can, like when I'm creating content, because I don't like to be like that. I think we can do better as a profession at that, because I think I think there's a lot of clock in and clock outers. There's a lot of clock in and clock outers, and they're just not living what physical therapy is. I think physical therapy could go a little bit, I don't want to call it prehab, but I want to call it like risk reduction. You know what I mean? Because like you can't really prevent anything. You can be walking down the street, a tree could fall on you, and that's pretty morbid. I know, but like I call it risk reduction. Uh, Promoting health, reducing risk, I think is a big thing, and I mean, that includes fitness and getting stronger and eating better, getting healthier. So I think we could do better as a profession at that. And I think there's an old school. It's kind of like this old school thought where that's not really a thing that they do or acknowledge that it's important or maybe understand important for recovery. Because we take patients to this like, all right, well, insurance is going to pay for this body part for 12 weeks, and that's it. And we're done, even though you're still at a place where you're not even though you're at a place where like you can't reach into I think ACL is a great example for this. Like, it's a 12-week stint of physical therapy, and maybe your insurance company will cover 24 weeks, right? But at that point, is your other limb 95% strength, right? Is it even 80% strength of what the other limb is? And we know re-tear, the rate of re-tear can be pretty high, but it becomes less we get stronger. And I'm not an ACL expert, right? But these are just things that we know from the literature. This is pretty general, like what I'm saying, but like we know that. And a physician might be like, just do like some manual muscle tests. I'm like, all right, you're good. Return to sport. Like you're all set. And I think we really need to take people past that. I think as a profession, we need to do better. We need to bring people. I think we can bring people back to sport. And I think even further than that, we can continue to help them get better and kind of, if you've got the knowledge and the training, you can get into the strength and conditioning for that. So yeah, I think that's I forget what your original question was, but it's just like my view on the way that things are, and maybe I guess it's tying it back to that clock in and clock out mentality, and like, oh, this person's not my problem after 7 p.m. You know, there'll be my problem in 2 days when they come in at 6 or at 7 or 6:30 rather, right? And we clock out at 7, they'll be my problem later. And insurance doesn't pay for them. Fine, we don't need to work together anymore. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand. That's the the rock I stand on, I guess, as they say. Is that the saying, or am I off?
I think that's the saying. I don't know.
Like, I'll
I
die
never
on
heard
this.
it, so
I'll die
I
on
think
this
that's a
rock.
yeah. I think that's the.
I'll Hey, you know what? I'll die on this soapbox. That's what I'm using right now. But I'll step off.
All right. So you were feeling like you weren't getting buy-in from your patients and like kind of not practicing what you were preaching. So what pushed you to start Evolve Health? And what is Evolve Health?
Yeah. What is Evolve Health? So again, it's kind of transformed. How did I start Evolve Health? Well, I was doing contract work. Um, I was living in West Hartford, so I hit Farmington, I hit West Hartford, moved back to Massachusetts where I was from. Hit Springfield, hit Farmington again, came back to Springfield. COVID happened, the lockdowns happened. My contract was for another 30 days, so they couldn't tell me bye, but they told everybody that was like a permanent employee, like they got furloughed. I was there another 30 days, and so my contract ended. I didn't have a job, and um, that's what really started. I had one person that reached out to me, and he was like, "Hey, I'm having this neck pain," and it's like, "Oh, I'm licensed in Massachusetts. We can work on that virtually." And so we did, and I knew I'd always want to start a business. I just didn't know how to get there. Like, I felt like, oh, I need to start this business plan, have it all written up, take a loan out from the bank, and do all these things. And I started, I want to shout out Honey Badger Project, Frank Benedetto, and the Honey Badger team. But they really helped me get up on my feet, and going in this virtual business. So it's really a remote and virtual business where that helps people take control of their health, right? And it's pretty it's I've gotten a little bit more narrow. It's pretty specific as to who I help, right? Busy professionals, because that's where I was. I was a busy professional, and my dad developed Alzheimer's, passed away during the COVID lockdowns, and I really think that if he had taken control of his health, um, he would not have passed away when he did. He woke up at 6, had some sugary cereal, coffee pushed him through the day. Lunch wasn't great. Work until 7, dinner, wine, nap. Work until 11 p.m. Ice cream and a couple of vodka drinks. Go to bed at midnight. Wake up at 6. The same thing all over again. Right. That was a cycle. And I feel like as physical therapy profession, we can get in front of that. Like we can work upstream. Of course, I work with injuries, but I think we can get upstream, health promotion, risk reduction of chronic disease. So I think that, and I like to think of myself as a forward thinking and fitness forward physical therapist. And so I like to work with people on taking control of their health. I also work with I've worked with a ton of physical therapists a lot in New York. I don't know why, but it's a lot of referrals. Um, and with just strength and conditioning and working on those things, really exercise, nutrition, sleep, stress management, and the mindset it takes to be successful at those things. So long answer, but that's really what I help people do: take control of their health. That's a broad statement, but really get healthy, get fit, and in a way that helps them navigate a busy schedule. So really long answer. That's not my elevator pitch. It's kind of getting a little bit deeper into what I do. The elevator pitch, I help busy professionals and healthcare professionals take control of their health, so that they don't go down the road that I had gone down and my father went down. That's really what prompted my business to be what it was. So there's the elevator pitch.
I like it. I like that. And sorry about your losing your pops. What mindsets or false beliefs did you had, or did you have any as you were building up Evolve Health? And are there any struggles that you had to overcome those barriers to get to the point that you're at now with the business?
Hey, it's, as a business owner, business is a roller coaster, right? There are going to be some ups, there are going to be some downs. It's not a straight line to success. And there's no end point, right? So there's some times where you struggle. There's some times where you're killing it. And I think you just compare yourself to yourself. You can't compare yourself to any other business because every business is different. But absolutely, there have been some struggles, especially when I first started. I think I was lucky enough to be, I was smart enough to have a savings where if I needed to dip into it, to make sure that we were still living and healthy, I could. So I had that to kind of help me be a little more confident and take the risk of starting this. But yeah, I mean, at first it was a struggle for sure, just getting clients. And I think one of the struggles was putting myself out there on the internet, right, on social media every day. Like, it's tough getting on camera, and it's like you guys do a great job of it. Right? You guys have a podcast if it's every week, every other week, every month. But I think you guys are really good at it already. I know Key is, she's really good at it. But it's tough to do at first. So I think that was definitely a struggle, knowing where the money was going to come from so that I didn't have to dip into that savings was a definite stress point, friction point. Knowing how to, because, kind of jumping out of that clinician brain, right? Because as I mentioned earlier, I had, was big on current body of evidence and trying to apply that to the individual. And being on social media is really a marketing. It's a marketing aspect of physical therapy. You're marketing your business. You're marketing yourself if it's a personal brand. So I was marketing myself, really putting myself out there. So that was absolutely a struggle and really difficult and a friction point for me. So that was definitely a struggle. And some of those low points in the roller coaster are struggles, and you have to believe that you can do better. You have to believe that things are going to be on the uptick, and there are things that you can do to make sure that you have the mindset to be able to make sure you're on that uptick, right? So yeah, a lot of struggles. Absolutely. Yeah,
How did
I think
you?
that. Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry about that. I thought you were done. How did you get over like the fear, or I guess the fear of promoting yourself on social media? Like, what were those steps? Like, did you just say, I need to do this, I'm going to do it, and just got consistent with it? What were your steps to getting over that?
I think at first, I think it was just kind of like easing in. So going into business, it was a conversation with my wife, right? Like it was, okay, I'm going on all in on this thing. There's going to be a lot less income right now. And, but I really believe in myself. I believe that I can do this, something that I've been passionate about for a long time, that I want to do for a long time. And she said, Mike, I support you. We're going to do it. We're going to make it happen. And she told me like a little more recently, she was like, yeah, I was scared and I wasn't sure, but she supported me 100%. So that was a jump in. but social media and getting comfortable on social media, I kind of dip my toes in. I got in slowly, like you would in a cold pool. I don't know. People do the ice baths. They just like jump right in. I'm actually allergic to the cold. I'm getting kind of off. It's not like I'm not in a straight line here. I'm allergic to the cold, so I shouldn't live in the Northeast. I get hives break out. But anyways, I dipped my toes in. I got in slowly. I started posting like pictures of things that weren't me. Then I started posting pictures of myself. And then I started posting videos. And uh, I love to post everything as a video, but it doesn't always work like that. Some people don't watch the videos. Some people look at the quote cards or pictures. Instagram started as a picture platform, so it's just a really slow in. So it's difficult, and you have to believe in yourself to be able to do that. So yeah, really difficult, but it was slow. But if
And I
I
think that's a
think,
good segue.
yeah, go on.
Oh, go. You can finish. Go ahead. Go ahead, my bad.
Yeah, well, what I was going to say is like making connections and having people supporting you, like Key, right? Like I can see that Key is posting regularly and she's doing it, and just communicating with her, knowing that she's doing it, and having that as like support instead of that support, like someone that's been through some of the same things, and um, if they're doing it, I'm going to try it. She's really confident, um, and just having connections like that is really helpful.
Yeah, I like that, and I think it kind of goes into something that you post about a lot, or post about, or that you preach to your clients, or the people that you work with, and habit building. And can you tell us a little bit about what is habit coaching and how do you develop a habit? I know this is something that we said we were going to hit on, so I want to hit on it because it sounded like we were at that point.
Sure. So I'm a big if you've read Atomic Habits, I'm a big James Clear fan, right? Like make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying. And um I don't think everybody needs every single one. So I can think of different clients that I'm using some of these things with. And I can think of one client, it's just like he just can't get it going. He's got some time in the morning, right? And like we've time blocked that. We've established this. Okay, this is what your schedule looks like. This is where we're going to fit it in. We don't even start with like something big, right? Start with something small. So I guess that's the make it easy component, but the make it obvious component is like, hey, like you have an alarm clock. Put your workout clothes on your alarm clock. Then you'll know like this is the time they're going to do it. Like you're already reaching for your clothes. Like you have to shut off the alarm, of course, that's under the clothes, but like you've already touched the clothes you're gonna work out in. Like this is your time to do it. That doesn't make it automatically he's gonna be like, yeah, I just touch the gym clothes and I'm gonna get into it. But it's like it makes it easier for him to do that. So like it's obvious. It makes it a little bit easier for him to do that. So that's something that I'm working with right now. Make it attractive. Um, that's something that I really try to do by having a community. I have a Slack community, and there's 40 people in there that are all doing the same thing, that have similar goals, and they're part of a community where they're surrounded by people that are doing it. So they make connections. That's to make it easy as well, because it's an environment, right? Like you're building an environment. So it's easy to go in there and post some of those things and gamifying it, right, guys? So I'm going to hit on the satisfying, right? Like if you gamify it, it makes it satisfying. So one of the things that I have different channels, like accountability channels. So a channel that I have is the step accountability. We just had, I don't like to call it a challenge. I like to just call it, we're all walking with each other, but like some of the people in there have a competitive mindset like I do. And I say at the end of this, whoever, when we have groups, right, there are pairs. So we haven't paired off. And at the end of this, whoever wins is wins us, I'm going to send you a prize. So they're going to get a prize, right? So we've gamified it, right? So there's some competitiveness there, and say they've hit the most steps for the week. That's a dopamine drip, and it's like, yes, I feel accomplished. I feel good about that. So that's going to make it attractive and make it satisfying point. And I guess that's a make it easy point, right? Because the environment is there, right? Like there's an environment. They're going into this channel. They're posting their wearables, like their steps for the day to prove it. And they're going into a spreadsheet and posting that in there so that we can come up with averages. Not everybody participates in it. Not everybody has that much time to do that, right? So there's accountability there though, to make sure that they're doing it. But those are some of the things that we do to build habits within the community. And I think that's a really important point, is to have that community. I think it's really important to have people around you that they're doing some of the same things, can support you, and that you can compete with. Because I am competitive and I have that competitive edge, I'll always want to compete. And maybe that's not good, right? Because you can look at yourself. Friendly competition, I guess you could say. But you can only compete with yourself. Like if someone's doing better than you, you just have to take it. It's like that's where they are. And this is where you are. And if you're doing better than you were before, then you're heading in the right direction. So that's another thing that I try to emphasize with people that I work with.
How many habits do you start with a client? And also, how do you get them to buy into this outside of the example you just gave? Because I feel like sometimes people want to tackle everything at once, especially if you're in a certain situation and you know that you were in better health before. You want to kind of get back to where you were quickly. And I think people try to focus on too many things at once. So how many do you start with, and how do you get them to buy into just focusing on a few things?
So I think, when we have a discussion, right? Like there's always a discussion, like, does it make sense for us to work together or not? Sometimes it doesn't, right? But if we decided that it does, they want to, right? Like they're bought in then because they've seen some testimonials, or they've seen like some of the wins on my social media channel, on my Instagram, right, on my Facebook. So and at this point, right, like they've been following me for a while, they probably already know me, so they're bought in. They've seen that people get results. They know, like, and trust me, right? So they're bought in there. But how many habits do we start with? Like, of course, everybody wants to be back where they are. Everybody wants to take control of their health. Maybe they haven't even been there. Maybe they haven't been in shape before or healthy before, what they consider healthy or in shape before. Maybe they've never been there before. And of course, they want to get there as fast as possible. And maybe they bring up some of the things that they saw that, well, this person that you're working with got here. I have to say, well, they didn't start with like all these habits. Like they started with just this one habit. Because I'll tell you, like, I know you want to do all these things, but if we do all of them now, it's going to set you up for failure. Let's start with one or two. Like, let's start with this one habit. You're going to go to the gym. You're going to do one exercise. Now we know when they go to the gym, they can do that one exercise and be like, I gotta do more. I took the time to come to the gym. They're probably gonna do more than one exercise, right? They're gonna maybe do something else, and they'll tell me that. I'm like, all right, let's guide you a little bit. Let's give you a little bit more. But right, like everybody wants to do more because everybody wants to be there tomorrow. But it's a journey. It's a journey. And I actually had this yesterday where someone was like, hey, you know what? I feel like I want to push a little bit more. And I have to be like, all right, let's hop on a call. Let's discuss this. Let's zoom out and take a look at where things are. Take a 30,000 foot view and discuss. And then let's zoom in to what we're doing right now and how it's going to get you to where you want to be. So we start with one or two, because if you start with a bunch, it's just not gonna work, right? You're gonna fall off after a couple of weeks. You might even start strong. Like we start with some habits, you might start strong, but the reality is it's going to be really difficult to be consistent until you've made something else a habit. And it's just, you know, it's an intention. It becomes a habit. Then it just becomes who you are, right? So, I mean, that's the process. We can go through all the steps, but that's like kind of the process. So.
Now, as you've got the business popping, let's say popping. I'm sure it's not, I'm sure everyone's always looking to improve their business. It's popping, you're a husband, you're a dad. How do you keep your cup full when you got everything else going on? How do you make sure you keep yourself energized and ready to go for the day ahead?
Yeah, so like I've built these habits, right? And it's just one at a time. So I take 30 minutes ish, 30-ish minutes. I have a time blocked, 30-ish minutes to plan my week, right? So I know what I'm gonna do when I'm gonna do it. And it's fluid, so it could change a little bit. Um, so I have time blocked out every day to get off of social media and spend time with my daughter, my wife. I have time blocked out every day to work out or do some active recovery. And those two things just in themselves help me to keep my cup full. Um, of course, I have certain times when I go to bed, certain times when I wake up. Like it's the same thing every day. So I know that I'm getting good sleep, and I know that I'm getting quality sleep because of that cycle. Like we have a circadian rhythm. I think people think it's woo woo, but that's an actual thing, right? Like it's scientific. Like circadian rhythm is a thing. So that's set. Go to bed at 11:30 every night. Wake up at 7 o'clock every morning. So I know when I'm doing that. I know when I'm doing everything because I've planned it. And it makes things a lot easier. It makes things a lot easier. And as a business owner, you have to know what your limits are, right? Like, so you have to say no to things that just aren't going to push the needle forward. You have to automate things that you can automate, and you have to delegate things that you can delegate. So, those are things that allow me to have that time with my wife, with my daughter, to work out, to plan nutrition. Now, for me, I'm at a time right now where I tracked everything I ate when I was a young buck. I was 30. I was 32. So, uh, so I tracked everything I ate, and I did that for a long time. And unless I'm in a situation where I'm trying to get leaner, I eat intuitively, and I stay about the same weight. So I know what I'm going to eat every day. I just know what I'm going to eat. Sometimes I go outside that. Sometimes I eat a little bit more. Sometimes I eat a little bit less. But I know approximately, like, about how many calories I'm eating, about what my macros are. I know that I'm hitting the spectrum of colors, getting my phytonutrients and micronutrients that I need to be healthy. I know how much water I'm drinking, and it's just a habit that I've built. Like it's not like I'm not thinking about it. I'm just doing it. It's just it's not a habit. It's just who I am. Yes, it's my life. So it's not something that I really have to think about. And eventually that's what it becomes, working out and eating well and fitness and health. It just becomes who you are once you've built those habits. So long answer, but that's how I keep my cup full, is planning habits that I've built. And it's a really important part of these things you're going to do. So the planning is huge.
It's not habit, it's just who I am. That's a bar. That's a bar. That's a bar. Um, as we start to wrap up, I just want to ask one to two things you want listeners to take away from this combo today?
1 to 2 things to take away. So a really big one is it's a getting in shape, being healthy, whatever that means to you. And I think we have some definitions as far as science is concerned, but getting there to where you want to be is a journey. Can't expect it tomorrow. You have to fall in love with the process instead of looking at the outcome. Like the outcome, you'll get there if you fall in love with the process. If you fall in love with eating well, fall in love with working out, the results will come. So fall in love with the process. Don't fall in love with the outcome. That's a really important part of what I want people to take out of this. The other really important point, I think, is, and this is, I guess, mainly for clinicians and healthcare professionals, is that you shouldn't point fingers. I mean, it's really important to do the things that you're preaching about. And if you want to be someone who is preaching health, who's preaching exercise, nutrition, and especially exercise, because that's what we see in orthopedic physical therapy, but if you're trying to get people healthier, you've got to be healthier to get that buy-in, right? You're going to feel better about helping people. You're going to feel better about yourself, and people are going to buy in more. Your patients are going to buy in more, and then the whole situation gets better. Your outcomes get better because people are bought in. People want to get to a place, and they want someone who knows what they're doing, or that they perceive that person knows what they're doing. That's who they want to be led by. So lead from the front. I guess if we're putting in a nutshell, lead from the front. And so those 2 things: fall in love with the process, lead from the front.
Bet. Mike, just want to say thank you for coming on the show and having this convo with us. Where can people find you if they have questions or want to follow your work or just get to know more about you?
Yeah, they can follow me on Instagram at Mike_Evolve Health PT. They can friend request me on Facebook, Michael Laviolette. They can like my business page, Michael Laviolette, PTDBTOCS. They can, I started a, I don't even know what it's called, TikTok. Just started a TikTok. I've got like 1 post on there. I think it's Michael Laviolette, PTDBTOCS. You can email me, Mike@evolvehealthpt.com. So those are all the ways you can get in touch with me. You can follow me. Would love for you to reach out. I love helping people, whether it's clinically, as a client, as a patient, or if you're a clinician and like there's anything that you want to talk about, found this helpful. If you want to ask about what residency's like, or any of my experiences, I'd love to share it with you.
Perfect. And on that note, we'll catch you guys on another episode of the KMA Audio Experience. Peace.